On Wednesday, October 13th, a day-long conference on Vermont's shortage of housing, especially that on the affordable and workforce end of the spectrum, was held at the Arlington Common, formerly the site of a Catholic church in Arlington. The conference attracted a wide range of local, municipal, and state officials, along with others interested in the housing picture and how to solve the current crunch in the housing market. Sponsored and organized by State Representatives Kathleen James and Seth Bongartz, the conference offered a series of panel discussions, beginning with an overview of the challenges and needs of the state from Josh Hanford, the state's Commissioner of the Department of Housing and Community Development, and Stephanie Lane, the Executive Director of Shires Housing, a local agency that seeks to develop affordable housing in Bennington County. GNAT-TV recorded the entire day's session, and the entire day's discussions will be available on our website, gnat-tv.org, and on our television stations. Other panels offered presentations and discussions by the staff of the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, the Vermont Housing Finance Agency, and Jim Sullivan of the Bennington County Regional Commission. We had a chance to talk briefly with Jim Sullivan and Stephanie Lane during a break in the action.
You know, as somebody said in one of the sessions this morning, there seems to be a bit of a disconnect in the supply and the demand model that's going on. You know, the cost for producing new housing just puts the price out of reach for what people's earning capacity is around here. So, when it costs, $500,000 plus for, to build a 1,500 square foot house, there's a real mismatch with what, people's earnings are in this area. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing. And a lot of things go into what drives that cost. Some things we can control and some things we can't. And so, the purpose of this session today is to try to identify the things that we can control and do the things that we can. And so, I look at it a lot from the municipal perspective, municipal government perspective. And so some of the things, we can do some things with regulation and planning and community development block grants and things like that. But, there's a lot of things that are outside of the control of the municipality too, and so that's why we have to work with the regional housing providers and the state agencies to provide supplemental funding to try to deal with that disconnect.
What do you see as sort of the biggest roadblock to get over in terms of generating more affordable workforce housing here in Bennington County? Is there a particular thing? Is it zoning? Is it permitting, or some other aspect that just sort of slows that process down?
I think finding appropriate sites right now has been a bit challenging for us that are affordable. Also, the supply chain issues continue to create delays, which of course means more money for the project. And we are noticing some lag time with permitting and with wastewater permits and things like that. Aside from the cost of those things, they're taking longer and our projects are starting later.
Okay, so the whole COVID phenomenon has really slowed things down a lot.
It has. We're still managing to get our projects finished, and they're leasing up quickly. Lake Perrin Village leased up in 45 days, which it has to be a record for us. But yes, that's the biggest issue. We're ready to go. We just, we're pre-ordering all of our materials for our next project before we even get started, because we know we're going to run into problems and it's going to slow construction, and you don't want to pull your crew off and then have to bring them back. It's costly.
Many issues were touched upon, including help for the homeless, to permitting issues, and questions from the audience included those who had experience in trying to develop low-cost housing as well.
But my experience has shown recently that the largest issue is permitting on the state level, which particularly through Act 250 and the A&R, which bogs down the permitting process tremendously. Doing reviews that are done on the town level and approved by the town level, and forcing developers to repeat the process, and then adding a multi-$1,000 fee on top of that per household. And so there's larger statewide issues I think and legislators are here have to look at, and along with that, to help facilitate housing, that the process itself is bogging down.
Personally, it definitely is going to have to be more work at the municipal level, for sure. The permitting, being able to purchase land is going to be very important. So I would like to see more participation from the local banking and mortgage associations. I mean, Vermont Housing Authority is doing a great job. I've done a little work with them. So it is going to take, at the community level, the select boards are going to have to, speed up the processes a little bit more, I think.
So I guess, what's your general sense of how this session has gone today, your takeaways, and what's kind of been said today that really kind of made you think, we could do that here in Arlington or something?
It reassures me that all the talk about how important housing is in Arlington is absolutely on point, that this really is the defining issue of this town for this generation, and that progress on this matter is going to be how the politicians here are measured for the next 20 or 25 years.
Over the course of the afternoon, a case study of housing development in St. Albans was offered by its city manager, Dominic Cloud, as well as by local officials such as Janet Hurley, Manchester's planning director and zoning administrator, and Nick Zayas, Arlington's town administrator. The day concluded with a discussion led by John O'Keefe, Manchester's town manager, who described a project that's been under consideration for some time now, a housing project on Depot Street in Manchester using some town-owned property on the site of the former town hall. State regulations surrounding Act 250 were another subject that popped up during the day, and we had a chance to ask Josh Hanford, the housing commissioner, about that.
Allowing Act 250 exemption in these smart growth locations, our village centers, our designated downtowns, actually helps our environmental goals, our climate change goals, at the same time as providing the housing we need. I just don't think it's acceptable anymore to not build the housing that Vermonters desperately need in sort of fear of that will somehow impact our environment in a negative way, when we've shown that providing this type of housing in these dense smart growth locations actually does the opposite. It results in less driving, less development up in the hills, less forest fragmentation, and so it's time to do something about it, I think.
As the day wrapped up, we asked Representatives Bongartz and James for their assessments and takeaways.
You go. Well, Seth and I were just talking about this, which is that I think anybody who attended today probably took away one really central message, which is that municipal leadership is the key to getting housing built in our communities. And Seth can riff on that a little bit, but that was an underlying theme of the day, and it was actually really inspirational and empowering.
And I think just to follow up on that, what it requires is towns to really commit to it, say we need this and we are going to make it happen. And then you begin to identify parcels, you identify possibilities. And the other thing, I guess, that came out of today was a realization that there are a lot of tools and a lot of people ready to help make it happen. But none of it happens without the towns saying, we need to do this and we are going to do it.
Yeah, and another thought that came out today, which I think a lot of people know, but you cannot emphasize enough how important the nuts and bolts are.
Yeah.
So water, sewer, zoning.
Yeah.
Do you think next year in the legislature this is going to be a kind of a top line issue for many folks? I mean, I know it's been discussed for several years, really nothing new, but do you think there's any chance there'll be legislative action that will drive this forward?
Well, if nothing else, there's more ARPA money. $75 million committed last year, and more will absolutely be committed this year. I think there's a recognition throughout the legislature that housing that is affordable, not just technically affordable housing, but housing that is affordable is, I don't know how you say what's the top priority, but it's certainly a very, very top priority for Vermont.
And we talk a lot with all of our colleagues, and I think it's clear, hearing from all parts of the state, legislators from all across the state are hearing that housing is at crisis level, housing needs to be a top priority, and I think we'll see a lot of conversations about it in the legislature.
Again, recording of the entire day's conference will be available on GNAT's website and TV stations. for those who want to hear the discussions in greater depth. For now, and for the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.